Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. Here is a terrifying statistic to start your day.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, roughly 87% of office workers are spending about 7 hours a day just staring at screens. And honestly, it's fundamentally breaking our brain.
Absolutely breaking them.
Right. Like, we're living in an era where we have more technology that's specifically designed to save us time than ever before in human history. Yet, ask any professional out there. Ask yourself, really, the consensus is that we just feel constantly behind.
Constantly.
Endlessly distracted and completely depleted by 5 o'clock.
It's the defining paradox of the modern workplace, I think. We adopted all this productivity software to, streamline our days, but the architecture of that software is actually extracting our attention rather than protecting it.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because we are not just going to, admire the problem today. We're pulling from this incredibly insightful piece of research published over at smartkeys.org by Felix Römer. It's called Work Tech Overload: Simplifying Toolsets to Reduce Employee Fatigue. And Felix brings over 15 years of e-commerce and digital marketing experience to the table.
He's been around the block.
Oh, definitely. He has been in the trenches of SaaS innovation for a long time. So our mission for this deep dive is to map out exactly how our digital ecosystems are draining us. And more importantly, we want to build a strategic, actionable roadmap for you to reclaim your focus and, your sanity.
Sanity being the key word there.
Exactly. Because it feels like we're trying to work in the middle of a crowded stock exchange floor, but the shouting is just constant pings on our screens.
That is a perfect way to put it. And, the place to start is by completely reframing how we view this exhaustion in the first place.
Right.
The article actually points out that the World Health Organization now officially classifies digital burnout as an occupational phenomenon, and it's tied directly to chronic workplace stress.
Wait, really? An occupational phenomenon?
Yes. That categorization is a massive paradigm shift. I mean, it means we have to stop treating digital exhaustion as this personal failing.
Like it's our fault for not being organized enough.
Exactly. If you end the day feeling overwhelmed by your inbox, it is not because you lack discipline or time management skills. It's a systemic issue. It's a fundamental flaw in the environment that you're being asked to operate in.
Wow, that reframing takes so much of the guilt out of the equation.
It does.
It's not a lack of willpower. The system is literally built to fracture your attention. And the data backing this up is staggering. The research cites a 2019 survey of over 1,000 U.S. office workers.
And that's 2019, right?
Right. Keep in mind, 2019 was before the massive shift to remote and hybrid work. So we can safely assume these numbers have only, compounded since then.
Oh, without a doubt.
But even then, over half of those surveyed reported experiencing fatigue or depression directly stemming from digital strain.
Which is just... When you scale that to the size of a modern enterprise, you're looking at a workforce where the majority of your colleagues, your leadership team, they're quietly battling this profound sense of cognitive depletion.
Yeah.
And the tricky part is how this depletion actually manifests. The hidden symptoms of overload are super insidious.
What do they look like?
We're talking about rising irritability, a creeping sense of cynicism about the work itself.
Oh, I've seen that.
Right. Severe sleep disruption, and just this rising baseline of daily anxiety.
And the crazy thing is, people might complain about things like tension headaches or severe eye strain or just a general lack of motivation, but they almost never connect those physical and emotional symptoms back to their device habits.
Right.
Or to a company's always-on culture.
No, they don't.
They just think, oh, I slept poorly or I'm just having a rough week.
Exactly. So they end up treating the symptom and not the root cause. When employees add hours to their workday just trying to keep pace with notifications and the endless flow of data, it fundamentally erodes their neurological recovery time.
Right.
The screen time cuts into deep sleep cycles. And that literally prevents the brain from clearing out metabolic waste.
Wow.
So quality of life plummets, and inevitably the quality of their professional output goes down right alongside it.
But hold on, how does a manager actually spot this before it turns into a crisis? I mean, high-performing professionals are incredibly good at hiding their fatigue.
They are. They really are.
They'll just smile on the weekly video sync, hit the Friday deadline, and then completely collapse off camera over the weekend. How do you see an invisible problem?
Well, you have to shift what you're looking for. You don't look for someone just yawning at their desk. You look for what the research identifies as information fatigue.
Okay.
When the brain's working memory reaches its absolute processing limit due to nonstop inputs, behavioral shifts become highly visible.
Like,
you start seeing missed handoffs between departments. You see higher error rates on routine tasks that a person usually executes flawlessly.
So they're literally dropping the ball on the basics because there is zero mental bandwidth left.
Precisely. And perhaps the most critical tell is active withdrawal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, an employee who used to be highly collaborative suddenly starts avoiding meetings. Or they stay entirely silent in group channels. Their mental capacity is just so entirely drained by the nonstop influx of updates that they instinctively build a wall to stop any new information from getting in.
Wow. So if an employee's working memory is maxed out to the point of literal withdrawal, what exactly in our software is causing that massive drain? Like, why should business leaders care about this beyond just basic human empathy?
Well, the primary mechanism causing this is what we call platform sprawl. Over the last decade, companies adopted a new tool for every micro problem.
Yeah, there's an app for everything now.
Right. So now an average worker navigates scattered notifications happening simultaneously across email, a dedicated chat app like Slack or Teams, specific project management dashboards, shared document drives, internal company news feeds. It's endless.
It's like email volume creates this urgency loop. It's like a digital game of whack-a-mole where every single ping is dressed up in a tiny siren, making it feel like a top priority.
Yes.
And it's like trying to write a complex, deep-thinking strategy document while someone is aggressively playing that game of whack-a-mole right on your desk.
Yeah.
Every ping pulls your focus. And by the time you look back at your document, your brain has entirely lost its place. And it takes 20 minutes just to rebuild that mental architecture.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. Psychologists refer to this as context switching, and it is incredibly expensive from a cognitive standpoint. So, your brain uses mental frameworks or schemas for different tasks. Switching from analyzing a spreadsheet to answering a nuanced chat message requires your brain to offload one schema and load a completely different one.
I see.
Doing that 50 to 100 times a day burns massive amounts of glucose. It causes genuine mental fatigue and blurs the boundaries between deep, productive work and purely reactive work.
And when those boundaries blur, the workday inevitably bleeds into the evening.
Always.
You spend from 9 to 5 just reacting to the whack-a-mole pings, which means the only time you actually have the silence required to do your core job is at like 8 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this daily human toll rapidly metastasizes into a severe business crisis. The text outlines a terrifying cascade of failures here.
What happens?
Unmanaged stress directly reduces professional efficacy. When efficacy drops, you see missed deadlines. That leads to increased rework, largely because vital information gets lost or siloed across all those scattered apps.
Right.
Morale falls. And ultimately, your top-performing employees, the ones carrying the heaviest loads, they will quietly quit. They will leave to find an organization that actually respects their cognitive limits.
And even if they don't quit, slower delivery and poorer decision-making just become the permanent company standard.
Exactly.
You end up with an organization that is completely incapable of innovating because every single employee is too busy just trying to empty their inboxes. They're surviving, not driving the business forward.
And the financial cost of turnover, constant rework, and missed opportunities for innovation, I mean, it far outweighs the monthly subscription cost of whatever new app a company thinks will magically solve their communication problems.
Yeah, realizing that platform sprawl is ruining the business is the easy part. The trap most companies fall into here is trying to solve a software problem by buying yet another piece of software to organize it all.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do we actually simplify this mess without breaking our current operations? The source provides a very specific roadmap for getting out of this hole, right?
It does. The foundation of the roadmap is structural consolidation. The article highly recommends running a quarterly tools audit to actively hunt for redundant software. Like, if your project management tool has a built-in messaging feature, why are you paying for a separate chat application for that specific team? You must establish a single source of truth.
That brings us to what I consider the golden rule of digital architecture. A company must name one official place for active projects, one official place for daily chat, and one official place for permanent files.
Yes, keep it simple.
Right. Because if the marketing team is using Dropbox, sales is relying on Google Drive, and HR is saving everything to an internal local server, you are basically guaranteeing that critical data will be lost and employees will waste hours just searching for documents.
Consolidation eliminates the friction of searching. But getting the tools in order is really only step one. You then have to control how those tools interrupt you.
Right.
You cannot rely on sheer willpower to ignore a buzzing phone. The text advises using app-level controls to ruthlessly mute non-critical alerts. It also mentions using notification aggregators, like an app called Shift, to centralize alerts from Outlook, Slack, and web apps into one unified dashboard.
Wait, I'm confused on that point. If the core problem is platform sprawl and having too many dashboards, doesn't giving an employee a notification aggregator like Shift just add another dashboard to the pile? How does that actually solve the problem we're trying to fix?
It sounds counterintuitive, I know, but the mechanism is different. An aggregator doesn't act as a new destination where work happens. It acts as a firewall.
Oh, firewall.
Yeah. Instead of having 5 different applications running in the background, all competing to push pop-up notifications to your screen at random intervals, the aggregator catches them all. You can then configure the firewall to only let alerts through at specific batched times.
So it changes the dynamic from a push system where the software constantly interrupts you to a pull system where you decide when to go look at the information.
Exactly. It facilitates batching. Instead of reacting instantly to every chime, you check your communications at scheduled intervals, say 9 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m.
That makes a lot of sense.
It effectively starves the urgency loop, which leads directly to the next major cultural shift recommended in the text, and that's redesigning our approach to meetings and email.
Right. For meetings, the default should be significantly fewer attendees and much shorter duration times. But more crucially, leadership needs to establish recurring no meeting blocks.
Yes, those are huge.
We're talking about locking down entire mornings or even a full day of the week where no internal syncs can be scheduled at all.
And for email, the rules of engagement need a hard reset. Default to using scheduled sends. If you are writing an email at 10 p.m., schedule it to arrive at 8 a.m. so you aren't bombarding your team's phones in the middle of the night.
Such a simple fix.
Right. And establish acceptable response windows. Make it culturally acceptable if it takes someone 4 hours to reply to a non-urgent request. And most importantly, implement a hard ban on after-hours pings. Unless the server is literally down, it can wait until the morning.
The source also advocates heavily for leaning into asynchronous workflows. But how does a team actually transition to asynchronous communication culturally without important things just falling through the cracks? Because we are so addicted to instant chat.
We really are. It requires shifting the medium of communication. Synchronous chat, like Slack, it mimics verbal conversation. It implies that an instant reply is expected.
Right.
Asynchronous communication relies on shared, persistent documents. Instead of calling a 30-minute meeting to give a status update or rapid-firing 10 Slack messages, you put the update into a shared project board or a Google Doc.
It creates a persistent record. Someone can review that document 3 hours later when they actually have the time, rather than having their deep work interrupted by a shoulder tap.
And all of these tactics, the audits, the batching, the shift to async, they serve one ultimate purpose: protecting the environment for deep work.
Right.
Techniques like time boxing, where you allocate strict time limits to single tasks, or Pomodoro sprints, which are focused bursts of work followed by breaks. Those are only possible if the digital environment is quiet enough to actually allow them.
I want to pause and ask you, the listener, a direct question here. Really think about this. What would your day look like if you just had one uninterrupted hour of deep work?
Just 1 hour.
Yeah, no pings, no got a minute messages, no calendar reminders popping up, just 60 minutes of pure focus. How much could you actually get done? For most professionals, that sounds like literal science fiction, but it is entirely achievable if leadership redesigns the ecosystem.
What's fascinating here is the core philosophy the author anchors this argument on. He writes, small management moves beat endless app chasing. They save time, cut errors, and help people recover.
Wow, yeah.
You do not need a magical new AI tool to fix your productivity. You need clear rules and boundaries. But those boundaries will only hold if visible leadership actually honors them. If a CEO mandates no after-hours emails, but then consistently emails the team at midnight, the policy is dead on arrival.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
The culture will always reflect leadership's actual behavior, not what's written in the employee handbook.
Exactly.
Now, fixing the software architecture and establishing these new rules is incredibly important, but it's really only 10% of the battle.
Yeah.
The other 90% is human behavior.
Yeah, the hard part.
Right. If the workforce refuses or struggles to adapt to the simplified system, the friction remains. Let's dig into the human element of implementing this roadmap. How do you roll out these changes without triggering massive resistance?
Well, this is where we have to look closely at behavioral psychology, specifically regarding how different demographics within a company handle technological change. The research addresses the common hurdle of age bias, this assumption that older workers simply cannot adapt to new software.
Right, which isn't fair.
It's not. The data shows that people can learn new interfaces at any age. The defining metric for successful adoption isn't age, it's self-efficacy.
Let's define that. Self-efficacy isn't just about actual skill, right? It's about belief.
Correct. It's an individual's belief in their own capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainments. It literally shapes motivation.
Oh, I see.
If an employee feels capable, supported, and believes they can master the new tool, their brain remains open to learning. If they feel overwhelmed, rushed, and judged for being slow, their amygdala spikes.
Fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly. They go into a defensive posture, and learning functionally shuts down. They will resist the change simply to protect their professional standing.
So how does a company actively build that self-efficacy during a rollout? Because dumping a massive new project management platform on the team on a Friday afternoon and expecting them to be super users by Monday morning is just a recipe for a panic attack.
It really is. The roadmap suggests paced learning paths to bypass that defensive reaction. You offer small group, hands-on sessions. You provide short, highly visual standard operating procedures instead of 100 pages manual.
Yeah, Ira reads those anyway.
Right. And you utilize peer mentors, people within the team who adapt quickly and can guide others without the pressure of a manager watching them.
The article also notes the importance of running opt-in pilots. Like, a small, willing team tests the software first, works out the frustrating bugs, and then advocates for the tool to the rest of the company.
That is so effective.
I really want to highlight something that Tex touched on regarding seasoned workers, too.
Yeah.
Instead of viewing them as a potential roadblock to tech transitions, recognize that years of operational experience make them incredibly valuable for spotting risks.
Oh, absolutely.
They know the actual workflows of the business, which means they can help tune the new tools to match reality, rather than forcing the team to adapt to some generic software template.
And you must normalize a temporary dip in output. Give teams a few extra hours for hands-on practice in that first week without punishing them for moving a little slower. It is a short-term investment for long-term operational speed.
All right, let's say a leadership team takes all this to heart. They do the audit, they establish asynchronous rules, and they roll out the training thoughtfully to protect self-efficacy. How do they actually measure the success of this simplification?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. If you can't prove the ROI, it just looks like another fleeting management fact.
Well, instead of a massive list of obscure data points, focus on two critical leading indicators of cognitive load. First, track the active app count per person. If you can reduce the number of discrete applications an employee has to log into every day, you are mathematically reducing the amount of context switching their brain has to perform.
Makes total sense.
Second, closely monitor voluntary turnover, specifically among your high performers.
Because high performers are usually the first to leave when a system is fundamentally broken, right? They have the options to go elsewhere.
Exactly. If your top talent stops leaving, it is the clearest market signal that your internal environment has become sustainable. Additionally, from a cultural standpoint, measure the frequency of after-hours messages.
Oh, yeah.
If the volume of emails and Slack messages sent at 9 p.m. drops to near zero, you have hard proof that you have successfully changed the culture and given your people their recovery time back.
So what does this all mean? When we look at the entire landscape Felix Römer has mapped out, the ultimate takeaway is highly empowering. We are not at the mercy of our technology. A strategic shift in how we manage our digital architecture can turn an environment of constant anxiety-inducing alerts into an oasis of quiet focus.
Beautifully said.
Protecting your people from digital exhaustion is not just an HR initiative. It inherently protects your bottom line, your capacity for innovation, and your market competitiveness. Wellness is the engine of productivity.
It really is.
So here is the practical challenge for you, listening right now. Run a micro-audit on your own tools this week. Look at your phone, your browser tabs, your notifications, identify the noise, and pick just one change to implement tomorrow. Block out 2 hours for deep work, or remove your work email from your personal phone.
And as you contemplate that audit, consider this final thought. If digital burnout is a systemic design flaw of the modern workplace and not a personal time management failure, maybe the ultimate productivity hack for the future of work isn't learning how to use a new tool faster. It's having the courage to turn three of them off entirely.
What a phenomenal point to leave it on. We want to explicitly thank you for tuning in to the Smart Keys podcast. We really hope this deep dive gave you the clarity and the strategies needed to reclaim your focus. Please make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an insight, and we highly encourage you to read Felix Römer's full article for yourself. You can find the direct link to it right down in the show notes. Keep working smarter, and we will catch you next time.